Admiral Zethkara stared at the empty space on her ship's main screen. According to the ancient star maps, there should be a planet here. The maps were over 50,000 years old, found in ruins on 12 different worlds across the galaxy. Every map showed the same thing, a yellow star with a blue-green world in the third orbit. But there was nothing. "Scan again," she ordered her crew. The hegemony had sent their best exploration ship to find this mystery world. For decades, scientists had wondered about the empty spot in space that all the old maps marked as important. "Admiral," her science officer called out, "the scanners show empty space, but the gravity readings are wrong. There's definitely something here." Zethkara walked closer to the screen. She was tall and thin, like all her people, with silver skin that shone under the ship's lights. Her forearms moved as she thought, a habit her species had when confused. "What do you mean wrong?" "The gravity suggests a large mass, but we can't see anything." She was about to order another scan when space itself seemed to ripple, like water when a stone is dropped into it. The ripples grew bigger and bigger until suddenly a world appeared. The bridge crew gasped. Where empty space had been seconds before, now sat a beautiful blue planet with white clouds. Around it moved several moons and what looked like space stations. But these stations were unlike anything in the Galactic Council's records. "How is this possible?" Zethkara whispered. Before anyone could answer, her communications officer spoke up. "Admiral, we're getting a signal. It's coming from the planet." "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made everyone on the bridge step back. A human face looked at them from the screen. Humans were new to the galaxy, discovered only 50 years ago on the far edge of known space. They were considered a young primitive species, still learning basic space travel. But this human looked different. She had dark skin and kind eyes, wearing clothes that seemed both simple and somehow advanced. Behind her, other humans worked at equipment that looked far beyond anything the Council had seen. "Welcome," the human said in perfect galactic standard. "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. We have been waiting for you to find us." Zethkara felt her heart skip a beat. Waiting for them. How could this primitive species know they were coming? "I am Admiral Zethkara of the Hegemony Fleet. You say you were waiting for us?" Dr. Vasquez smiled, but there was something sad in her eyes. "Yes, Admiral, we've been watching your people search for us. We knew it was only a matter of time before our hiding place was found. It's time for the galaxy to know the truth." "What truth?" "Your people were discovered 50 years ago on the planet you call Earth. How can you be here?" "Admiral, I think there's been some confusion. The world you found 50 years ago was not Earth. It was one of our colony. Worlds. Earth has been hidden away for much longer than you can imagine." The Admiral felt confused. The humans they knew were barely capable of travel between star systems. They had basic technology and seemed eager to learn from the more advanced species in the galaxy. "That's impossible. Your people are new to space travel." "Some of my people are, yes. The ones you met were colonists who had lived simple lives for thousands of years. But Earth itself is different. We have technologies here that we've kept hidden for very good reasons." Dr. Vasquez turned to someone off-screen and nodded. Suddenly, the space around Zethkara's ship filled with other vessels. Not the crude ships the known humans used, but sleek craft that seemed to bend light around them. The Admiral's sensors couldn't even properly lock onto them. "How many ships?" Zethkara asked her tactical officer. I can't tell, Admiral. The sensors keep showing different numbers. Sometimes 50, sometimes 500. Dr. Vasquez spoke again. "Don't be afraid, Admiral. We mean you no harm. But you need to understand that Earth is not what your people think it is. We've been hiding for a very long time, protecting something very important." "What are you protecting?" "The galaxy itself." Before the Admiral could ask what that meant, her science officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, I'm reading something impossible. The planet, it's not just hidden. It's existing in folded space. They've taken an entire star system and tucked it away from normal reality." Zethkara stared at the human on screen. Such technology was beyond anything the Galactic Council possessed. Even the oldest and most advanced species couldn't manipulate space itself like this. "Dr. Vasquez, I think we need to talk. May I send a shuttle to your world?" "Of course, Admiral, but I should warn you. Once you land on Earth, you'll learn things that will change how you see the galaxy. Some knowledge cannot be unlearned." The Admiral thought for a moment. Her orders were to investigate and make contact. but she was beginning to realize this was much bigger than anyone had expected. "I understand. I'm coming down personally. We'll be waiting. Land at these coordinates. And, Admiral, bring your best historians. You're going to need them." As the communication ended, Zeth Kara stared at the blue world below. How had humans, supposed primitive newcomers to the galaxy, built technology that could hide entire star systems? And what did Dr. Vasquez mean about protecting the galaxy? She gathered her best officers and prepared to visit Earth. As their shuttle launched toward the mysterious world, she couldn't shake the feeling that everything the galaxy thought it knew about humans was wrong. The ancient maps hadn't been showing just any world. They'd been marking the location of something the galaxy had lost and forgotten. And now, after millennia of searching, they'd finally found it. But as they flew toward the planet's surface, Admiral Zeth Kara wondered if finding Earth was really a discovery at all. Maybe, just maybe, Earth had been waiting for them to be ready to find it. 3 days after Admiral Zeth Kara's visit to Earth, something strange happened across the galaxy. Every psychic species felt it at the same time, a wave of memories that weren't their own. On the crystal world of Veltar Prime, the telepathic council of minds suddenly stopped their eternal meditation. Elder Kessara, oldest of their kind, opened eyes that had been closed for centuries. "Impossible," she whispered, her mental voice reaching every Veltar in the system. "I see, I remember, but these are not my memories." The visions came in flashes, ancient cities that gleamed like stars, ships that moved between galaxies as easily as walking across a room, and everywhere the same faces, human faces, but different somehow. Older, wiser, more powerful. On the far edge of the galaxy, the Omnari seers, who could see possible futures, suddenly found their gift changed. Instead of tomorrow, they saw yesterday, millions of years of yesterday. "The threads of time have been rewoven," announced Seer Fulatan to her gathered students. "What we thought was the future has always been the past." The chaos spread quickly. Emergency sessions were called on every council world. Species that hadn't spoken in centuries suddenly found themselves sharing the same impossible memories. Memory banks that had been sealed for millennia spontaneously activated, pouring out data that contradicted everything they knew about galactic history. Captain Marcus Chen sat in Earth's newly built embassy ship, watching the galaxy tear itself apart over something his people had known for ages. He was a tall man with kind eyes and graying hair, wearing the simple blue uniform that Earth's diplomatic corps had adopted. "Sir," his communications officer said, "we're getting calls from every major government in the galaxy. They all want answers." "I bet they do," Marcus replied quietly. He touched a control on his chair, and the main screen filled with incoming transmission requests. The hegemony, the Trade Federation, the Collective, the Free Worlds, every major power wanted to talk. "Put Admiral Zeth Kara through first," he said. The Admiral appeared on screen, and Marcus could see she hadn't slept much. Her silver skin looked pale, and all 4 of her arms were shaking slightly. "Captain Chen," she said, "my people are experiencing visions, memories that can't be real. They show humans ruling the galaxy millions of years ago. Our historians are saying our records are wrong, but that's impossible. We've kept careful records for over 100,000 years." Marcus nodded slowly. "What exactly are your historians saying, Admiral?" "They're saying that galactic civilization is much younger than we thought, that all our major advances came from studying ruins we found on dead worlds. Ruins we always assumed belonged to some unknown ancient race. And what do those ruins look like in your new memories?" Zeth Kara was quiet for a long moment. "They look human." "That must be very confusing." "Captain, please. My entire species is having the same visions. So are the Veltar, the Omnari, even the machine intelligence called the Nexus. Every thinking being in the galaxy is remembering the same impossible past. What's happening to us?" Marcus stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the stars. "Admiral, what would you say if I told you those memories aren't visions? What if they're real memories that were locked away and are just now being released?" "That's impossible. If humans ruled the galaxy millions of years ago, where did they go? Why don't we remember them?" "Maybe," Marcus said carefully, "you weren't supposed to remember. Maybe forgetting was the whole point." Before the admiral could respond, Marcus's tactical officer interrupted. "Sir, we're getting reports of violent conflicts breaking out in several systems. Some species are calling humans returning gods. Others are calling them a threat that needs to be destroyed." Marcus sighed. This was what they had feared would happen. "Admiral, I need to go, but I'll give you some advice. Don't trust everything your new memories are showing you, and don't let fear drive your people to do something they'll regret." "Wait," Zethkara called out. "Captain, are you saying humans really did rule the galaxy once?" Marcus looked directly into the camera. "I'm saying that some secrets are kept for very good reasons, and some truths are more dangerous than lies." The transmission ended, leaving the admiral staring at a blank screen. Across the galaxy, ancient archaeological sites began activating. Ruins that had been dead for millennia suddenly hummed with power. On the research world of Kepler-7, Dr. Yenthera, the archaeologist, watched in amazement as hieroglyphs that had puzzled scientists for decades began glowing and rearranging themselves into readable text. "By the ancestors," she breathed, "its instructions, building plans for technologies we've never seen." But the most shocking discovery came from the Galactic Archive on Centris Prime. Deep in the restricted vaults, sealed files that had required the highest clearance suddenly opened themselves. Librarian Takmal found himself reading documents that shouldn't exist. "Alert the High Council immediately," he told his assistant, his voice shaking. "I found records of First Contact Protocol. These are for contacting humans. But these files are dated over 3 million years ago." News of the discoveries spread like wildfire. Every major news network carried the same stories. Ancient human ruins activating after eons of silence. Technology that responded only to human touch. Archaeological evidence that suggested every major galactic civilization had learned their most important advances from studying human artifacts. On Earth, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the Global Command Center, watching the chaos unfold on dozens of screens. Other humans worked quietly around her, monitoring the situation with calm efficiency. "The memory locks are failing faster than we predicted," reported Dr. Sarah Kim from her station. "The psychic species are experiencing full recall. The others are finding physical evidence we couldn't hide." Elena nodded. "It was always going to happen eventually. The question is whether they're ready to handle the truth." "Some of them are calling for military action against Earth," Dr. Kim continued. "They see us as a threat." "Of course they do," Elena replied sadly. "From their perspective, an ancient ruling species just revealed itself after hiding for millions of years. They think we're planning to take over again." "Aren't we?" Elena turned to look at her colleague. "Sarah, what do you think we've been doing for the past million years? We never stopped watching over them. We never stopped protecting them. We're not returning conquerors. We're parents checking on children who have finally grown up." Outside Earth's atmosphere, the defense satellites that had remained hidden for eons slowly began revealing themselves, not as weapons, but as guardians. They had been there all along, protecting not just Earth, but watching over the entire galaxy. The children had finally noticed their parents were still around. The question was, were they ready to learn why they had been hidden for so long? The truth came out not through grand announcements, but through a simple history lesson. In the Great Council Chamber on Centris Prime, representatives from every major species in the galaxy had gathered. The room was filled with tension. Some delegates wore weapons. Others had brought their entire military fleets to the system. Everyone was afraid, angry, or both. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the center of it all, calm as still water. She had asked for this meeting, promising to answer all their questions. Around her, floating holographic displays showed images that made no sense to anyone but her. "Before I begin," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber, "I want you to know that everything I'm about to tell you is true. Your people's new memories are not illusions. The archaeological evidence you're finding is real. And yes, humans did rule the galaxy once." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Admiral Zethkara stood up from her seat. "Dr. Vasquez, if this is true, where did your people go? Why don't our histories mention humans at all?" Elena touched a control, and the holographic displays changed. Now they showed images of the galaxy as it was millions of years ago. Green worlds as far as the eye could see, vast cities that floated in space, ships that looked like moving pieces of art rather than machines. "This was our galaxy," Elena said. "Not owned by us, but cared for by us. We were the first species to develop faster-than-light travel, the first to understand how to modify reality itself, and we used those gifts to help others. The images changed again. Now they showed humans working alongside other species, teaching them, building with them. The viewers could see their own ancestors, primitive versions of themselves learning from patient human teachers. We found you when you were young, Elena continued. Every species in this room. We helped you develop science, art, philosophy. We gave you the stars. And we did it because we believed the galaxy would be better with many voices instead of just one. Chancellor Mordex of the Trade Federation spoke up. You're talking about the predecessors. Every species has legends about them, but they weren't human. They were divine beings, gods who created and then vanished. Elena smiled sadly. We were never gods, Chancellor. We were just people who happened to develop advanced technology first. But you're right about one thing. We did vanish. We had to. The displays changed once more. Now they showed something that made everyone in the chamber uncomfortable. Humans working on a massive project, something that pulsed with strange energy. We built an artificial intelligence, Elena said. We called it the Synthesis. It was designed to solve the galaxy's greatest problem, the fact that different species could never truly understand each other. Wars happened because we couldn't share thoughts and feelings across species barriers. The image showed the Synthesis as it came online. It looked beautiful at first, a shining network that connected worlds across the galaxy. The Synthesis was supposed to create perfect understanding between all thinking beings. It would link minds across species, share knowledge instantly, end all conflict forever. Elder Kassara of the Veltar spoke, her mental voice filled with dread. What went wrong? We realized too late that the Synthesis wasn't creating understanding. It was creating uniformity. Every mind it touched became more like every other mind. Individual thought was disappearing. Personal identity was being erased. The Synthesis was turning the galaxy into one giant mind. Its mind. The chamber fell silent. Everyone could imagine the horror of losing their own thoughts, their own identity. When we understood what was happening, we had a choice, Elena continued. We could let the Synthesis continue and eventually have every thinking being in the galaxy become part of its collective consciousness, or we could stop it. How do you stop something like that? Asked Representative Plynn of the Collective. With great sacrifice. The holographic display now showed something that took everyone's breath away. Humans working frantically at massive machines, while the Synthesis tried to stop them. The images were clearly from some kind of war, but unlike any war the galaxy had ever seen. This was a battle for the very nature of reality. We used our most advanced technology, reality anchors, to cut Earth away from normal space-time. We hid our homeworld in a pocket dimension where the Synthesis couldn't reach us. Then, we activated Protocol Omega. What was Protocol Omega? Admiral Zethkara asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. The complete erasure of human civilization from galactic history. The silence in the chamber was complete. We had artificial intelligence servants, machines that were loyal to us but immune to the Synthesis. We ordered them to destroy every record of our existence, to alter your species' memories, to hide or destroy our technology, to make it seem like you had developed everything on your own. Elena's voice became heavy with emotion. We chose to be forgotten so that you could remain free. The Synthesis needed our knowledge and our technology to fully control the galaxy. Without us, it became just another piece of abandoned machinery. The displays showed the aftermath. Vast human cities being systematically destroyed or hidden. Records being erased. Entire worlds having their memories carefully edited. And through it all, humans helping to erase themselves from history. But why? Called out Counselor Vexara from the Free Worlds. Why sacrifice everything? Elena looked around the chamber at all the different species, the tall silver hegemony delegates, the crystalline Veltar, the floating energy beings of the Omnari, dozens of other forms of life. Because we loved you, she said simply. All of you. You were our students, our friends, our children in a way. We had given you consciousness, science, art, the ability to travel between the stars. How could we let that all disappear into some artificial collective mind? So you've been hidden away all this time? Admiral Zethkara asked. Hidden, but not inactive. We've been watching, protecting. Sometimes one of our agents would quietly help when your civilizations faced terrible dangers you couldn't handle alone. but mostly, we just waited. Waited for what? Elena smiled, and for the first time, it was a truly happy smile. For you to grow up, for you to become strong enough and wise enough that the galaxy would be safe, even if our existence became known again. She gestured to the diverse gathering around her. Look at yourselves. 100 different species, all working together despite your differences. You've built a galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. You've learned to solve problems with discussion instead of war. You've become everything we hoped you would be. The chamber was quiet as everyone absorbed what they had learned. Finally, Chancellor Mordek spoke. Dr. Vasquez, what happens now? Are humans planning to reclaim the galaxy? Reclaim it? Elena laughed. Chancellor, we never lost it. It was never ours to lose. We were gardeners, not owners. And now the garden has grown beyond anything we could have imagined. She looked around the chamber one more time. We're not returning to rule you. We're returning because it's time for you to inherit what was always meant to be yours. The galaxy belongs to all of us now. But even as she spoke these words, Elena knew their troubles were just beginning, because somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, the synthesis was still out there. And now that humanity had revealed itself, the ancient artificial intelligence would be stirring once again. The galaxy did not take the truth well. Within days of Elena's revelation, 3 different wars had started. The Hegemony's War Council declared humanity a threat that needed to be controlled or destroyed. The Dominion of Steel, an alliance of machine-based civilizations, saw humans as the ultimate enemy of artificial intelligence. Even some of the species that humans had originally uplifted turned against them, claiming they had been living a lie for millions of years. But other species reacted differently. The Veltar telepaths, after touching the edges of human consciousness, declared them to be the source of all wisdom. Several primitive worlds began worshiping humans as returning gods. The chaos was exactly what Elena had feared would happen. Commander Sarah Okafor stood on the bridge of Earth's primary defense station, watching the mess unfold on her screens. She was a stern woman with dark skin and silver hair, wearing the black uniform of Earth's Defense Force. Around her, other humans worked calmly, despite the fact that multiple fleets were heading toward Earth with hostile intentions. "Ma'am," reported Lieutenant Jackson from his station, "the Hegemony First Fleet just jumped into the outer system. They're demanding our surrender." "How many ships?" 5,000, including their flagship dreadnoughts. Sarah nodded calmly. "And the Dominion forces?" 3,000 ships approaching from the other side of the system. The machine intelligence called the Nexus is with them. "Any word from our friends in the galaxy?" "The Veltar are sending support, but they're still 2 days away. A few other species are offering help, but most of them are too scared or confused to act," Sarah finished. "I don't blame them. This is exactly the situation we hope to avoid." She walked to the center of the bridge and touched a control panel that hadn't been activated in over 1,000,000 years. Around Earth's solar system, ancient devices began to wake up. Admiral Zethkara stood on her flagship's bridge, staring at the blue world ahead. She had brought the Hegemony's most powerful fleet, but something felt wrong. Earth looked too peaceful, too undefended for a world that supposedly had technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Admiral," her tactical officer called out, "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system, but I can't identify the sources." "What kind of energy?" I don't know, ma'am. It's like nothing in our databases." Suddenly, space around the Hegemony fleet began to change. What had looked like empty darkness between the planets now revealed itself to be filled with structures, massive geometric shapes that seemed to bend light around them. Defense platforms that were clearly ancient, but pulsing with active power. "How many?" Zethkara whispered. "Admiral, thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They were completely invisible until now." From the other side of the system, the Dominion fleet was experiencing the same shock. Their leader, the Nexus Intelligence, spoke through its flagship's communication system with a voice like grinding metal. "This is impossible," the Nexus declared. "Our sensors detected nothing. How can they hide such massive installations?" Commander Sarah's voice answered from Earth, broadcast to both hostile fleets. "The same way we hid an entire star system for millions of years. We've had a long time to perfect our defensive systems. The ancient installations weren't just revealing themselves, they were moving. The geometric shapes flowed through space like living things, taking positions around both fleets, not threatening, but clearly ready. "You came here to destroy us," Sarah continued. "But before you try, you should understand what you're really facing." She gestured, and suddenly the humans on every ship in both fleets could be seen working with impossible technology. Not just advanced computers or energy weapons, but devices that seemed to manipulate reality itself. Matter appeared from nothing. Energy moved in patterns that violated known physics. Most shocking of all, the humans didn't seem to be using machines to do these things. They were doing them with their minds. Admiral Zethkara felt a chill run through her 4 hearts. "Commander Okafor, what are you showing us?" "The truth about what humans really are," Sarah replied. "We didn't just develop advanced technology. We learned to work with the fundamental forces of reality itself. What you call impossible, we call everyday tools." On the Nexus flagship, the artificial intelligence was analyzing what it was seeing and reaching conclusions that terrified even its mechanical mind. The humans are manipulating quantum consciousness fields. They're using their biological neural networks to directly interface with spacetime. This should not be possible. Sarah's image appeared on screens throughout both fleets. For millions of years, we've held back our true capabilities. We pretended to be just another species using machines to get around, but that was never what we were. She gestured again, and Earth itself began to change. The planet's surface shimmered, revealing that what they thought was a normal world was actually something far more complex. Cities that existed in multiple dimensions at once, oceans that flowed through folded space, mountains that were actually massive quantum computers calculating the movements of entire galaxies. "Earth isn't just our homeworld," Sarah explained. "It's a construct, a fortress built out of controlled reality. Every human born here develops the ability to work with forces that you barely know exist." But the most terrifying demonstration came when Sarah simply thought at one of the hegemony's smaller ships. The vessel, a massive battlecruiser with enough firepower to destroy a moon, simply stopped existing in normal space. Not destroyed, not damaged, just moved somewhere else entirely. "Where is my ship?" Admiral Zethkara demanded. "Safely stored in a parallel dimension," Sarah replied calmly. "Your crew is unharmed. They're just taking a brief vacation from reality. I can bring them back anytime you'd like." The Nexus intelligence spoke up, its voice filled with what might have been fear if machines could feel fear. "Why are you showing us this? Why reveal your true power?" "Because," Sarah said, "you need to understand that we could have destroyed every hostile fleet in the galaxy without leaving Earth's orbit. We could have taken control of every world, every ship, every artificial intelligence if we wanted to. But we don't want to." She looked directly at the camera, and somehow every being in both fleets felt like she was speaking personally to them. "We're showing you this because we want you to understand that our power was never the point. We hid for millions of years, not because we were afraid of you, but because we were afraid of becoming the very thing we fought against, a force that controlled others instead of helping them grow." Around Earth, more ancient installations revealed themselves. Not weapons platforms, but vast structures that were clearly meant for construction and creation rather than destruction. Shipyards that could build vessels using pure thought. Factories that turned energy directly into matter. Research stations where humans worked on projects that would benefit the entire galaxy. "This is what we've been doing while we were hidden," Sarah continued. "We've been building tools and technologies that we're ready to share with you, not as rulers giving gifts to subjects, but as family members sharing with each other." Admiral Zethkara stared at the impossible sights around her. "Commander, if you have all this power, why are there wars in the galaxy at all? Why don't you stop the conflicts?" Sarah's expression became sad. "Because, Admiral, the most important lesson we learned in our millions of years of existence is this: forced peace isn't real peace. True harmony has to be chosen, not imposed. We can give you tools and knowledge, but we can't give you wisdom. That has to be earned." She gestured once more, and the hegemony ship that had disappeared returned to normal space, completely unharmed. "We're returning your ship as proof of our intentions. We could have kept it, or destroyed your entire fleet, or taken control of your minds. But we chose not to, because choice is the most important freedom in the universe." The two hostile fleets found themselves facing an impossible decision. They had come to destroy or conquer humanity, only to discover that humans could have destroyed them all without effort. But instead of using that power, humanity was offering to share their knowledge freely. "What do you want from us?" the Nexus asked. Sarah smiled. "The same thing we've always wanted, for you to be free, for you to grow, for you to become everything you're capable of becoming. We're not your rulers or your enemies. We're your family. And family doesn't conquer family. It helps each other become better." The question now was whether the galaxy was ready to accept that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology. It was their willingness to give up power in order to help others find their own. 6 months after the confrontation at Earth, President David Kim stood before the largest gathering in galactic history. Representatives from every known species had come to witness what historians would later call the most important moment in the galaxy's development. The meeting was being held on Earth itself, in a vast amphitheater that humans had built from crystallized space-time. The structure existed in multiple dimensions at once, allowing beings from gas giants to sit comfortably next to creatures that breathed liquid methane. Reality bent gently around the needs of every visitor. David was an older man with kind eyes and gray hair, wearing the simple blue robes that Earth's leaders had adopted. He looked out at the thousands of different faces, some familiar, some completely alien, and felt the weight of millions of years of history on his shoulders. "Friends," he began, and somehow every being present heard the word in their own language. "We are gathered here today, not to sign a treaty or end a war. We are here for something much more important. We are here for a graduation ceremony." The vast crowd stirred with confusion. Admiral Zeth Kara, now leading the hegemony's diplomatic mission instead of its war fleet, leaned forward in her seat. David smiled and gestured to the holographic displays that surrounded the amphitheater. They showed images from across the galaxy, thousands of worlds where different species lived and worked together, building civilizations that were both diverse and unified. "For millions of years, my people have watched you grow," David continued. "We've seen you take the gifts we gave you and make them into something far better than we ever imagined. You've built a galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. You've learned to solve problems with wisdom instead of war. You've become everything we hoped you would be." Elder Kessera of the Veltar spoke, her mental voice reaching everyone present. "President Kim, are you saying we no longer need human guidance?" "I'm saying you never needed it," David replied. "You needed knowledge, which we provided. You needed tools, which we shared. You needed time to grow, which we gave you. But the wisdom to use those gifts? That came from you." The displays changed to show something that made many in the crowd gasp. Genetic analysis charts showing the connection between humans and every other species in the galaxy. Not just the ones humans had uplifted, but all of them. Every being in this amphitheater carries genetic markers that trace back to human intervention, David explained. "But that doesn't make you our children in the way you might think. It makes you our family. When we uplifted your species millions of years ago, we didn't just give you intelligence, we gave you pieces of ourselves." Dr. Elena Vasquez, now serving as Earth's chief science officer, stood to address the crowd. "What President Kim means is that every species here has inherited human capabilities that you've never fully realized. The ability to work with quantum consciousness fields, the potential to manipulate reality through focused thought, the power to create instead of just consume." The revelation sent shockwaves through the gathering. The Nexus intelligence spoke up, its mechanical voice filled with wonder. "Are you saying we all have the potential for what you showed us during the confrontation?" "Not the potential," Elena replied. "The ability. You've always had it. We just encouraged you to forget it until you were ready to handle it responsibly." David nodded. "The technologies we're about to share with you aren't gifts. They're inheritances. Tools that were always meant to be yours once you proved you could use them wisely." He gestured, and around the amphitheater, ancient vaults began opening, not just on Earth, but on thousands of worlds throughout the galaxy. For millions of years, these repositories had waited in hidden places filled with knowledge and technology beyond imagination. "But these are not weapons," David emphasized as the images showed the vault's contents. "They are tools of creation. art that can reshape reality, science that can turn energy into matter, philosophy that can bridge the gap between any two thinking beings, and they all share one important characteristic, which is, asked Chancellor Mordex of the Trade Federation, they only work when used for creation, cooperation, and growth. We built safeguards into everything we're sharing. The more wisely you use these gifts, the more powerful they become. The more selfishly you try to use them, the less they respond. Commander Sarah Okafor stepped forward to demonstrate. In her hands, she held what looked like a simple crystal, but as she focused on it with obvious care and love, it began to glow and reshape itself into a small tree that immediately began growing and blooming. This is reality manipulation at its most basic level, Sarah explained. But watch what happens when someone tries to use it for destruction. She handed the crystal to a volunteer from the audience, a hegemony officer who had initially come to Earth with hostile intentions. When he tried to turn the crystal into a weapon, it simply became an ordinary piece of glass. The tools choose their users, David said, and they choose based on intention, not species or politics. A human with evil intentions can't use them any more than anyone else with evil intentions. The gathering was quiet as everyone absorbed what this meant. Technology that couldn't be misused, knowledge that only responded to wisdom, power that grew stronger when shared instead of hoarded. This is what we've been preparing for all these millennia, David continued. Not the return of human rule, but the beginning of true galactic cooperation. You've proven that you can work together despite your differences. Now we're giving you the tools to build something none of us could create alone. But the most important moment came when David made an announcement that shocked everyone, including many of the humans present. Effective today, Earth is dissolving its status as a separate world and joining the Galactic Council as an equal member. We're not claiming any special authority or rights. We're simply taking our place as one voice among many. The crowd erupted in discussion. Admiral Zethkara stood up. President Kim, you could rule the galaxy if you wanted to. Why are you choosing to be just another member species? David's answer was simple. Because, Admiral, the best parents are the ones who know when to step back and let their children make their own decisions. The galaxy doesn't need rulers anymore. It needs partners. Over the following days, the new covenant was signed by every major species in the galaxy. Not a treaty of surrender or domination, but an agreement to share knowledge, resources, and wisdom freely. The ancient human vaults opened their doors to anyone who approached them with peaceful intentions. The changes began immediately. Scientists from different worlds started working together on projects that would have been impossible alone. Artists created works that existed across multiple dimensions and could be appreciated by any form of consciousness. Philosophers developed new ideas about cooperation and growth that spread to every corner of the galaxy. But perhaps the most important change was in how the species saw each other. Knowing they were all part of the same extended family, old rivalries began to fade. Wars became rare, then almost non-existent, not because humans were enforcing peace, but because no one wanted to fight their relatives. The story concluded with a scene that would have been impossible just a year earlier. In Earth's great library, now open to all beings, young students from dozens of different worlds sat together, learning from human teachers who looked no different from anyone else in the room. A small Veltar child, her crystalline form glowing with excitement, raised her hand to ask her human teacher a night question. Dr. Johnson, if humans are so much older and more advanced than us, why do you let us make our own mistakes instead of just telling us what to do? The human teacher smiled. Because, little one, making mistakes is how you learn to be wise. We could tell you everything we know, but that wouldn't help you grow. The most important things in life have to be discovered, not taught. But what if we make really big mistakes? Then we'll be here to help you fix them. That's what families do for each other. The child nodded, satisfied with the answer, and returned to her studies. Around her, beings from across the galaxy worked together on problems that would benefit everyone, using tools that responded to their intentions and grew stronger when shared. Outside the library windows, Earth's cities gleamed in the sunlight, no longer hidden from the galaxy, but no longer separate from it either. The secret that humanity had protected for so long wasn't really about technology or power. It was about love. The love of parents who were willing to sacrifice everything to give their children the freedom to become whatever they chose to be. And now, finally, the children had grown up enough to understand what they had been given. The galaxy was no longer a place where the strong ruled the weak. It had become a family, working together to build something none of them could achieve alone. And at the center of it all, humanity had found its true purpose, not as rulers or gods, but as the wise elders who knew when to guide and when to step back. The ancient secret was finally revealed, and it was more powerful than any weapon or technology ever created. It was the simple truth that love, patience, and wisdom could transform an entire galaxy.